It's round 28 on map 2 of the PGL Major Stockholm Grand Final. In the first major for over 2 years, NiKo is about to flank heaven. But before we let this play unfold, we need to understand exactly how we got here. G2 probably aren't supposed to be here in the final. Hell, a lot of people, myself included, didn't even pick them to make it through the group stage.
And NiKo is an extremely good player right now, could potentially carry them through a couple of games. I don't know if they can win a best of 3 in their map pool.
They were ranked number 6 ahead of the major, but had been knocked out of their most recent event by a Mad Lions squad ranked just 32nd in the world at the time, and who themselves weren't even close to making the major.
Oh! They've done it! G2 go down and the Mad Lions all the way back!
G2's recent form was poor enough that rumors of potential roster moves were already bubbling under the surface before the major even began.
And their confidence is low. I feel like there are a roster change is looming. I don't think Jax is playing at that level at the moment. I don't think the whole team, honestly. NiKo seems like the only consistent factor for me.
This tournament is different though. It's the first major in 2 years and the first LAN with a crowd for nearly as long. That means players who have proven they can perform under the pressure of the big stage are priceless. And NiKo is definitely someone who fits that category, having been a top 5 player in 3 of the last 4 years. For this team, reaching the final is already an impressive accomplishment, but the razor-sharp form of NiKo has almost solely brought them to this point. And for NiKo, the money doesn't really matter. This is a chance for redemption. Rewinding to 2018 at the E-League Boston Major, NiKo was FaZe's superstar and the highest rated player at the event going into the final. And this time, the stars had aligned, so he didn't have to face his nemesis at the time. SK had beat FaZe in their last 5 series in a row, 3 of which were painful grand final losses for NiKo and FaZe.
And SK in 3 will take down FaZe once again.
But in this tournament, SK had been knocked out by a massive underdog in Cloud9. So much so, the odds makers gave FaZe a 76% chance of winning the grand final. But despite being 15-12 up on the final map, with every round loss, it felt like FaZe were running out of time.
But look at the time! Look at the time! There's 7 seconds of got the bomb! They're trying to build pyramids, but there's no more play! Stewie's won the round! We're going to overtime!
That iconic play from Stewie sent the decider map to overtime, where Fane would go on to take a painstaking 22-19 loss. Now you can see why this means so much more for NiKo, and with his team now being the underdog and a new roster, including his cousin Hunter alongside him, he finally has a golden opportunity to prove he can finally banish those major demons. Fittingly, there's also something to prove for the player he's aiming at, Simple. If you come for the king, you best not miss, and Simple is undeniably the king of Counter-Strike in recent years.
Perfecto and Simple. He needs a multi-kill. First found. Twist aggressing. They have to double peek. He's getting his shots. He's hitting another one. Simple. No, Simple. That's unbelievable. What in his name? Number 1 in the game. He's done it again.
He's been ranked as a top 2 player in the last 3 years in a row and has won countless top-tier trophies. But there's still the sentiment that a player as special as he is deserves to have won more, and has never had the full supporting cast needed to dominate. That's finally changed though. With the promotion of Rookie Bit, who has hit the ground running, they've won 3 of the most competitive tournaments of the year, including Cologne and Pro League. And despite many young players struggling in front of a crowd, Bit's form has continued as a strong star, while Simple's level of dominance is almost laughable. By this point in the year, everyone had effectively agreed he'd be the #1 player of 2021 with months left to go. With Simple standing out more than ever and his team peaking alongside him, NaVi are clear favourites for this major. And Simple is set to tick off the final missing box in his career, a major championship. Despite Simple's individual dominance over the recent years, the one accomplishment that's eluded him is that missing major win. He's reached the final twice in the past, once in 2016 with Liquid, and once in 2018 with NaVi. And on both occasions, he has taken brutal losses and failed to even register a single positive map despite his excellent form up until that point in both events. In 2016, he fell to a dominant SK, but for a fresh-faced Simple, even getting to the final with Liquid was seen as a success relative to expectations. But while the 2018 loss to the flawless fundamentals of Astralis was seen as fairly likely, it was the fashion in which it happened and the poor performance from Simple that made it such a disappointment and arguably even a slight mark on his career. Especially since in every other major, Simple was always a standout player but never had the team around him to get to the final. And so now, with the best lineup in the world, it's Simple's major to win, and there's no more excuses. For the longest time, Simple was a world-class player having to drag his team to wins. But now, that actually describes NiKo. His impact with the rifle at this event has been almost inconceivable, especially since most top players generally use the AWP, and yet still, NiKo's been outdoing almost everyone with the rifle. The fact that NiKo is even contending with Simple is incredible, and you could argue he's had to carry harder to get here. Going into the final, Simple has been the highest rated on his team in 3 out of his 8 prior maps, while NiKo has been the highest rated on his team in 7 out of the 9 maps G2 have played, including every single playoff map that G2 have partaken in. One of those maps was Inferno in the semi-final against Heroic, where he actually got into a similar position to the one he's in now. At 13-9 on the final map in a 2v2, instead of going to A to play the post plant with his teammate, he outpositioned the unsuspecting Heroic players by staying on Banana, but couldn't keep his composure despite Refresh having his knife out. G2 went on to win this map and series in overtime, but that was against an inexperienced Heroic. Here against tournament favourites NaVi on Nuke, with momentum shifting away from them, he can't afford to make that same mistake. There are so many reasons a mistake here would be catastrophic. G2 have already lost their map pick of Ancient, and so are going into NaVi's pick needing to win Nuke, a map that has been a fortress for this NaVi lineup. At this point in time, NaVi have won 17 maps of Nuke in a row over the world's best teams, and so after they stole G2's map pick, many thought this final was a foregone conclusion.
I think Yanko said it best in the pre-game. It's like, at this point in time, the NaVi team is so good. The map doesn't matter. Like, for example, when Bit actually in the second half was popping off there, if he's just going to hit headshot after headshot with the AK, that's not even about, like, the tactics at that point in time. You're just breaking the round open.
But despite G2 themselves losing Nuke to Heroic in the semi-final, they've surprised everyone with a strong 10-5 CT half without NiKo even having to carry. Surprisingly, he's their second lowest fragger at the half, with roleplayer Jax putting up a monster 19 kill first half. And after a back and forth start to the second half, G2 eventually reach a massive 14-7 lead. Teams who start CT and reach this scoreline on Nuke go on to win 90% of the time, but those teams don't have to go up against NaVi's 17 nuke streak. And it feels like the moment might be getting to G2. who have called for A plays in a couple of recent rounds on the T side and have been consistently shut down. The worst of these was the very previous round, where G2 had a clean 5v4, but struggled to find a weakness in the NaVi setup. And after NiKo got picked off by Simple, an uninspired A play left G2 out of cash. That previous round being such a disappointment, coupled with the overall momentum shifting away from G2, leads to their coach Malik deciding to take their final tactical timeout despite not having much money. That means they'll probably be coming up with some sort of Hail Mary play off the back of this pause. This time though, despite the weak money, it's different. The A aggression has resulted in even trades, and even better, after spotting this player behind him on the edge of the smoke, Nexus spams through and accidentally lands some stray bullets onto Electronic, taking him out of the vents. From here, NaVi are expecting everyone to commit to the fast A play, and so aren't even considering the possibility of a flank from NiKo through ramp. With NaVi's momentum, dominance on this map, and even Nex's fortunate shot through the smoke, it feels like all the stars have aligned for G2 to have to close this map out now. And it's going to be hard to stay strong mentally if they don't. So sit back and enjoy a moment in Counter-Strike history.
Times it to perfection. And Simple sitting down. No! Disaster! An absolute disaster!
That was it!
That was
the game!
It, Chad, that was it! Mirage was one click away! Oh my!
Unthinkable. NiKo doesn't miss. NiKo doesn't miss. No. NaVi, they fight on, and you can see that no timeouts. No timeouts. If that's not going to shatter your morale, you knew what the difference of that kill was.
Thank you guys for watching. This was my personal favorite video I've ever made, so if you enjoyed it, I'd appreciate if you subscribe. And if it's your first time watching Counter-Strike content, I recommend checking out this video here, looking at Art, who is uniquely aggressive throughout CSGO history. And in case that doesn't float your boat, YouTube thinks you'll like this video here. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.